There are 3 different ways where you could assign a Flipgrid assignment via Schoology. The first way is to create an assignment and copy and paste in the link and QR code information. The second way is to create a Google document with the assignment and the resource links, and then simply import and embed it. And the third option is to actually embed Flipgrid within Schoology using the Add Link external tool. This video will walk through all 3 options and talk about processes and things to consider for best practice. To prepare the Schoology assignment, I have 2 different tabs open that I'll be using. First will be Schoology for the assignment itself, and then Flipgrid. More specifically, I'm going to the topic where I want to get the code for the students to access. And I'll click on Add Materials. I'll choose to add an assignment, title it appropriately, and then to save some time, I've already pre-typed some text, which I'll just paste in. So maybe I have a challenge statement, some process steps, and then places for me to put in some links. What I can then choose to do to round out the Schoology things is put in a due date. I can choose to put in a category, which I've set up in my gradebook setup. And what to me is really the most powerful thing is a scale or rubric. I created a very, very, very simple Flipgrid rubric, and this will be embedded into the assignment so students can see what to do. This will also make grading a lot easier, which we'll share in a later video. Okay, so now what I need to do is get my students to Flipgrid itself. To do that, I would go back to Flipgrid. Now there's a fork in the road here that would be important to consider. You can create as many or as few grids as you'd like, and a grid would be analogous to a class period. If you prefer just whatever course you teach, maybe it's World History or English 4, you could just make one giant grid and then all the students would answer it. I think personally that would be kind of overwhelming to manage. Personally, if I was doing things, I would have a discrete class period grid and then the topic for the students. That being said, each of the grids and each of the topics has an individual address. So I'll model how to do this with a period 2 and a period 3. If you're wondering about how to set things up, do keep in mind that you're able to duplicate grids and basically clone out what you've had already with your settings. And once you actually go to a grid, you can do the same thing with your topics and duplicate your topics. So that way you don't have to recreate everything that you've built. So to get started here, I'm going to go back to the top level. I'm going to start with my period 2 grid. I'll click on it, and I'll go to the topic and click on Share. I'll copy the URL. I'll now go into Schoology. I'll highlight period 2. I'll click on the little chain link icon and paste in the code. I'd like to also put in the QR code for students who are using a tablet or a phone. I can click on the QR code, right-click to copy it, and then in Schoology, I can paste it in. It takes a second to load. What I can do then is repeat the process for period 3. I would then go back to my Flipgrid. I would go back to the grids itself, go to period 3, go to the topic and share it, and within Schoology, choose a chain link and paste it in. All said and done, I would go ahead and I would hit save the assignment, or create the assignment. And what I'll see here will be the assignment itself. When I click on it, what I'll see here would be the challenge, the process, the links to get me there, and then the grading of how the student will be held accountable for the assignment. Everything's here and it's really nice. By making a separate link for each of the class periods, students can then at least go to a discrete spot. You can scale it out across Schoology, but you have less to grade for each particular class or course. Could actually be to embed Flipgrid within the assignment itself. So I'll go back to Materials. I'll add Materials and add an assignment. Just to denote the process, I'm going to call this one Flipgrid Embed. I already copied over the text from the previous assignment, which is great. I would go ahead and put in the due date as it's appropriate. choose a category, which again is a gradebook setup. Again, I'm going to use the rubric because I think this is a really nice way for grading and giving feedback to students. And what I need to do now is actually get students to the Flipgrid assignment. So in this case, I'm going to go back to this topic. I'm in a period 3 online PD, and I see the topic I want to assign. I'll click on share, and I can click on embed. It's copied a code. What I'll do now is actually go on in, give some space, and what I can do is I can click on switch to HTML. It's these 2 little circles to the right. At the very end, I would paste in the code that was copied, and it's kind of ugly and scary looking, but they make it for you. It's all good. What I would do next then is hit create. This way, if I click on the Flipgrid embed, what you'll actually is going to see is Flipgrid is built right into it. They don't have to go anywhere. The student would just simply click on login with Google. They would then select their account. They see the topic, and they can go ahead and post their submission right in this window without having to do anything extra. A couple of drawbacks that you can see here is that one, the window is a little bit small, so they have to scroll over. They can't quite get to the stickies where they can take some notes, but they can record and do everything else just the same without really leaving Schoology at all. Now, if we're looking at this, it would be important to keep in mind that you probably want to make an individual discrete Schoology assignment for each different class period, because remember, the topic itself is a different address. So this probably wouldn't be very appropriate for having multiple class periods in one window. So that's another way that we can explore how to use Schoology. If you're relatively new to Schoology, but you're pretty comfortable with Google Docs, a second option is to actually type everything up within the Google Doc and then import and embed it within Schoology. This way you're getting the best of both worlds, control over how you format and edit the document, and a simple way of getting things into Schoology. To use the Google Doc option, what I have here is a document where I've typed out a challenge statement, some very basic process statements, as well as the links to my topics. I also copied and pasted a QR code for illustrative purposes. If this is something that you're using, I'd recommend maybe a table, so that way it's a very easy way for students to see which code is which if they're using a camera. They probably just put their hand up and block the one they don't want to record. As far as some other basic housekeeping things, I've been ensuring that anyone with a link can view this document, so there's no lockouts. So that's all good. What I'll do now is go over to Schoology, add materials, and add an assignment. I'll go ahead and title this one Flipgrid Doc Embed, just for illustrative purposes. Just the same, I would choose a due date. Just the same, I would need to choose a category. And just the same, I would probably use the rubric to grade. Now, I got to get the document in here, and here's how you do it. Notice a square with a southeast facing arrow. It says Insert Content. You'll click on that. You'll click now on the Google Drive Resource app. And what you'll be able to do is a quick search for the document. Now, I'm using a separate account for this training, so I know it's a document that's shared with me. That's why I'm going here. And I'm going to select a Flipgrid. I'm going to choose to import and import embed. What I'll see now is a yellow box, and that's okay. What I'll do next is I'll simply click create. Now here's how it's going to happen. When I go to this Flipgrid document embed, if I click on it, the student's going to see the actual Google document itself with all the links that he or she can click on. The student will also see the rubric of how they're being graded, and everything's all nice. If I want to go back and edit the Google document, it'll refresh the next time the student hits refresh in Schoology or signs in the next time, and it'll be up-to-date instructions. This way, my management of the assignment's actually in the Google Doc and not really in Schoology itself, which could be a plus. The final Schoology option with Flipgrid is actually to use the Add File, Link, or External Tool option. This is really nice because it will give a super nice big screen. Nothing's going to get cut off when students are interacting with Flipgrid within Schoology. The two drawbacks that we've seen so far is that one, you can't attach a rubric to it, which would affect the grading process. And two, You would probably need to create this individually for each class because remember, every topic has a unique address and by consequence, a unique embed. So here's how this would work. Option, what I'm going to do is go back to Flipgrid. I do need to remember which class period I'm choosing and which topic I'm choosing. In this case, it's a period 2. I would go over to the share for the topic, and I would copy the address. In Schoology, I would now go to Add Materials, Add Link, File, External Tool, and I'll choose External Tool. What I would want to do then is I want to title it appropriate. For URL, I'll paste in the URL. And I could choose to enable grading. Now do note that this does not allow me to bring in my rubrics, which is kind of a bummer, but everything else is the same. What I can do then is hit submit, and what will occur is I'll see like little rulers almost, and I can click on it, and it's going to be a beautiful big window. Nothing's cut off, nothing's truncated, and when I sign in, what I'm going to see is the assignment itself and the submit button and a really, really nice big screen where I can go ahead and use the Post-its, to make my notes and do whatever I want to record. I think as far as the user experience goes, this screen's really the nicest because it's nice and big. But from a teacher management perspective, the problem here now is that you're not going to be able to grade it using the rubric for whatever reason. So if you find the rubric's the important way to go, you probably want to work with creating an assignment rather than embedding this tool. But we just want to make sure that you know that this is an option if you'd like to use it. So these are the different ways that you can use Schoology and really incorporate what you do, whether you want to use a document, whether you want to create an assignment, whether you want to embed, the choice is yours.